Welcome to another edition of Florida Newsmakers. I'm Alia Faraj-Johnson with our very special guest, Florida Department of Transportation Secretary Ananth Prasad. Thank you so much for being here with us, Secretary Prasad. Recently, Governor Rick Scott and the Florida Cabinet approved a $150 million investment in Florida's seaports. Can you talk about the importance of that?
It's very important. Under Governor Scott's administration, the 3 years, we have really tripled the amount of investments in the seaports. And the fundamental premise there is to create jobs, create manufacturing. We want to be the trade gateways to America. As you know, we got 19 million residents here, about 90 million people visit us. We are the closest to Panama Canal, closest to the emerging economies of Latin and South America. So by investing in our seaports, not only we can attract more imports into the state that can then be further moved up the country, but also develop more manufacturing jobs in the state so that we can export to those growing economies.
And how many ports or how many projects?
There's about 15 deepwater ports Florida has, and this year alone we're investing $288 million. So since Governor Scott took office, our investment in seaports gone up 278%. And it's really getting noticed. We got a lot of ports, but we are a peninsula. We have water all the way around, and each of the ports have a very niche area. So what we're trying to do is to make sure the ports don't compete amongst themselves, but they're competing against Savannah, Mobile, and Houston.
Now, another issue that the state is facing, and it's challenging all across the nation, is an aging infrastructure. What is Florida doing about that?
Well, nationally, that's been an issue, but I'm very excited to tell you that Florida has one of the best infrastructures in the country. U.S. Chamber of Commerce recently announced that Florida has the best infrastructure. We have the least number of structurally deficient bridges. That means the bridges need some work on it. We have the best pavements, interstate pavements and rural roads. And it's partly because the governor, the previous governors, and the legislature all have invested in infrastructure. The key philosophies that we follow in the state is to make sure that our house is in good order first before we add on capacity. So we talk about safety and preservation comes first. So make sure there's not a leak in the roof before we start adding on. That's not the philosophy that a lot of other states can employ, because adding capacity, building new stuff is always the more interesting part, and attracts more public interest in it. But we cannot ignore our existing infrastructure, because that's what's going to make the case for continuing investments.
And needing that infrastructure means actually needing more revenue. Let's talk a little bit about the declining gas tax revenue and what important role that plays in your ability as the head of an agency.
It is continually a problem. I think it's not a problem that we're going to face within the next year or so, but it's a problem that is 10, 15 years down the road. As you know, fuel efficiency standards have gone up under President Obama's administration, and people are driving more fuel-efficient vehicles. People are driving alternative fuel vehicles, so they may be driving the same amount of miles, but not contributing the same amount for the infrastructure.
So how do we fix that?
Well, I think what we're doing in Florida is our increased reliance on toll roads. Toll roads are a user fee. You use a road, you pay for it. It's no different than your water bill at your home or your electricity bill. If you turn your sprinklers on, and thank God this year with all the rain we've been getting,
Truly.
we had to turn the sprinkler system on. But if you turn the sprinkler on, you pay your water bill based on number of gallons of water you use. Toll roads are the very closest analogous to how many miles you drive on a road, and you pay a per mile toll fee. So we have diversified our revenue stream in the extent of we have a very successful, financially stable turnpike. We have 4 other regional authorities that do their share in mobility. And our new model of putting express lanes on interstate and providing consumers choice, that's helping us withstand the revenue shortfall in the short term.
And finally, and very briefly, if we may, the Statewide Transportation Corridor project, I know that's been important. You've been spearheading that. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, we're very excited about it. We're continuing to look at the corridor from Tampa Bay north along the parallel to I-4. As you know, our state's going to continue to grow. We're going to be the 3rd most populous state within the next few years. 100 million visitors are going to come visit us. So we need to start thinking long term. What are our corridors? I-4 is already congested. I-95, I-75 has a great demand on it. So it's important that we work with environmental conservation groups, landowners, look at where the jobs are, where the growth's going to happen, and start planning for that new corridor, the new interstate, 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Well, thank you, Secretary Prasad, and thank you, our viewers, for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next week.